Hey guys, happy Monday. Listen, today I want to hop on and talk to you guys about something that I am super passionate about. And it's something that I can actually say that I've learned from, and it's just changed my life. And what it is really the stinking thinking that so many of us do, and then that negative self-talk that really has nothing about building us up and everything to do about really tearing us down. So I have to confess though, guys, that so much of what I share on these live videos are things that I've learned from other people. I am a student of myself. I'm constantly doing personal growth, constantly reading and listening to things. Now, it doesn't fill every minute of my day, but I make it a priority. So much of what I'm going to share today comes from little snippets of things that I've learned from some of my favorite people out there. Mark Batterson, Max Lucado, Brene Brown, Bob Heilig, Maston Kipp, my friend Alicia, my friend Charlotte, so many people. So I have to say that what I'm sharing today is not necessarily something that I just got out there and I'm going to talk on. These are things that I've learned from people. So without going on and on about that, let me just get right into this particular video. I really think if you take it to heart, it will change your life the way it has changed mine. So many of the ways that we talk to ourselves, that the negative thinking and the negative talk that we do really can keep us from living a purpose-filled and a joy-filled and a significant, successful, if you want to say successful, life. And the thing is the negative thinking that we do and the negative self-talk that we do, so many times we do it unconsciously. We don't even know we're doing it, but we are. It just becomes part of what we are. So if you want joy, if you want peace, if you want to feel significant, which you are, please feel it, or successful, then you must take your thoughts captive. There's no two ways about it. You have to take your thoughts captive. Your thoughts create your attitude, and your attitude creates our action, whether we do or don't do something, whether we believe something or we don't believe something. And then those actions produce or don't produce a result. So let me repeat that because I think it's very important to wrap your head around this. The thoughts that you think create your attitude, right? You think something and you start to act like it. Your attitude creates this action or this lack of action, and then that action or the lack of action produces a result, which is usually a negative result. So your thinking does that. So guys, it's important for all of us, myself included, to know that we are the thinker of our thoughts. No one can make us think anything. We choose. So you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. So remember to separate the two. You get to decide what you're thinking. You ultimately decide that. So your thoughts really come from the interpretations of things going on around you. So as things are happening, you're interpreting them positively or negatively. So negativity, bottom line, is your choice. You get to decide. And here's the deal. Those dominant thoughts, the prevailing thoughts that we often think, like, you know what, I don't have any money and I'm never going to have any money. Or, I am so not talented and I'm never going to be talented. Or, I am not a confident person. I'm never going to be a confident person. Or, I'm overweight and I will always be overweight. when those become your prevailing thought, your dominant thought, that's what you think, then you're going to start acting like that thought. It just happens. It's the truth. So the very first thing that I think you and I include myself, the very first thing that we need to do when we want to just say no more of the negative thinking, no more of the negative self-talk, the very first thing that we have to do is, number one, is to be aware of it. And that's with anything. Anything. I tell this to my kids all the time. You got to be aware of it first. If you're living in denial, nothing's going to change. So if you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. You've got to know that something's going on and I want to change it. Number two is you've got to take responsibility for your thinking. You've got to take responsibility. So I'm a farmer's daughter. I go out and visit my dad quite often. And what's happening on the farm right now in this particular season? Can you guess what's happening? What's happening is my brothers are out in the field, prepping the field for the spring planting. I love it out there. I'm telling you, if you want to just take a breath of fresh air, go visit a farm. And I don't mean literal air, but it's just so refreshing to see that happening. So anyway, my brothers are prepping the fields for spring planting. You know what they're doing? They're cultivating, they're spraying fertilizer, they're getting rid of weeds. They're getting rid of weeds that have the potential of strangling and entangling and everything else that a weed does to what they're getting ready to plant. So they're prepping the field. They're doing their due diligence and getting rid of the weeds. And that's what you and I have to do. We have to really tend to our fields before the negativity can overrun us. We've got to take control of it. So if you're a visual person, or if you think in stories, think of a farmer tending their field. Think of a gardener tending her garden. Got to get rid of the negativity. So here's a little story, and there's this term, or there's not a phenomenon, I don't know what it would be, but there's a term that we often do, it's a behavior that happens, and it's confirmation bias. And what that means is we start to look for things that just become prevalent in our life. So here is an example, and then I'll explain more about confirmation bias. But back in, let's see, I was thinking about this, probably about 89 or 1989 or 1990. That sounds so weird, even saying that. So now you can sort of do the math and think about how old I am. But that's when I got my very first car. All through college, I didn't have a car, and if I did, I borrowed my parents. But anyway, I finally got my first car, and I decided that I wanted a color that I had really never seen very often, and it was like the 80s, 90s color, but it was this teal green. Who remembers the teal green craze? But that's the color car I got, and it happened to be a Dodge Shadow. So here's where this confirmation bias comes in. I get my Dodge Shadow, super excited. It had one of those automatic seatbelt things that would automatically go over you. It was pretty cool. And it wasn't very long after I got it. Remember, I thought this teal green was an unusual color, and I was so excited about it. But I'm telling you, it seemed like I pulled out of this parking lot in Washington, Missouri, and all I could see were teal cars, and they were shadows. You know, it was crazy. So that's a form of confirmation bias, because what happens is we start to look at what we want to see. I started to look at the cars around me. I became aware, and I started to have this bias to all the cars that were these teal green Dodge Shadows. We do that. What we focus on in our mind starts to support, or what we focus on, our mind supports. So if we're going to start thinking that we are unworthy, or we're a product of our past, we really messed up, and we're never going to be good because we messed up big time in our past. When we start thinking about that, we become that product. If you think you aren't confident, you're going to start to act like that. If you think you're not talented, you're going to start to act like that. You're going to have this confirmation bias, and you're going to start saying things, and sometimes it's in our mind, usually it's in our mind, I told you so. I'm never going to be good enough. I told myself so. I'm never going to do it. So you can think of a whole host of examples that when you start to tell yourself things, you start to live it out. So that sort of segues right into another topic that I could talk for hours on, and it's self-talk. It's self-talk. It's the words that we say to ourselves that begin to have power over us. They start to manifest themselves. They start to come to life inside of us because we're speaking them over us. I'm going to get my teacher hat on. I have a homework assignment for you. Start to write down all the negative things that you say about yourself or to yourself. Just do it. Do it for a day. Do it for a day. Do it for a week. Do it for a couple of days. But start to write them down and look at what you actually say to yourself. I did a video about this, just the last video actually. You would never talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself. You would never do that. You would never call a friend, you are so unworthy. You are not going to amount to anything. Or you are so ugly. I can't believe you're going to go out like that. Whatever. Stop and write down the things that you talk to yourself. That's called your self-talk. And be aware of how bad it is. I challenge you to, before you friend the next person on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever is out there that I'm not aware of, friend yourself first. Friend yourself first. And here's the other thing. I talked about this on the last video or maybe a couple of videos ago, but start to create an evidence file of all the flippin' rockin' things that you've done in your life. Create this evidence file. Write down the gifts that you have, the talents that you have, the abilities, and look for the small wins. If you're trying to lose weight and you took the stairs instead of the elevator today, write it down. If you want to write a book and you haven't really written it yet, it's just a thought and all these fears are in your brain, but you wrote a paragraph today, write that down. Instead of going, I only wrote a paragraph, then write it down. I wrote a paragraph. If you are someone who's wanting to go back to school, but all these things are happening and you're not doing it, but you got on the web to a college and you actually looked to see what classes were out there, write it down. You actually did that. Think about all the things. A whole host of them, but begin making an evidence file of all the great things that you are doing. I'm telling you, we hear the word no like 3 or 4 times more than we hear the word yes, and part of it is what we say to ourselves. So start doing the opposite and create this evidence file of all the things that you've done right. And remember, guys, everything is baby steps. Habits take a while to create. Change takes a while to create. So remember, guys, life is a journey, and it should be a journey. And please know that I'm talking to myself. I'm not perfect. I'm always talking to myself when I do these videos. But life is a journey, and it should and it must be filled with gratitude and joy. I hope you realize, and I'm talking to myself, Lynn, I hope you realize how much good things are out there, especially if you live in America. My gosh, we have everything at our fingertips. So live a life of gratitude and joy, and have baby steps. And here's the last thing that I want to do, second to last thing. Remember, guys, we start dying, and I did this in a video, we start dying the day that we're born. So life is short. Life is short. I don't care if it's 80 years, it's still short. And you want to leave a legacy. You want to leave a legacy to those that you rub shoulders with, and you want to leave the best legacy that you can leave, and it doesn't have anything to do with money or property or a car. And it's the legacy of positivity and joy and gratitude. That's what I want to leave for my kids. I want my kids and anybody that I rub shoulders to know that my mom or that girl, that woman, she was so positive. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't perfect. She was positive and she was grateful. That's the legacy that I want you and I to leave. So there you go. If you got any value out of this video, and if you think somebody would benefit to hear it, then share it. Listen, if you are a woman, I'm sorry, I'm cutting the men out, but if you're a woman who really struggles with confidence, worthiness, what's your purpose, just negative self-talk, negative image, whatever, if you want to join our tribe of women who are like-minded on this road, this journey to confidence, we'd love to have you in our group. It is a group that has no strings attached. It's just a group where we edify each other. Then I'm going to put the link to that group in the comment section below. Click on it and I'll accept you into the group. Again, if you got any value out of this video, share it. If you want to visit my website, lynnschrader.com, got lots of videos like this, YouTube as well. So guys, remember, pay it forward. I've been paid forward by so many people who've talked into my life, spoke into my life, and that's what I'm doing on these videos. Have a great Monday afternoon, and I will see you soon. Bye.